morning, and today we are going to talk about painting a pumpkin. So you can see the image behind me. It's hard to paint with the camera in front, and I can always post the pumpkin. But what I love about this pumpkin, and I've done a few nature journaling drawings with it with my ink, is that it's got the warts, the bumpies, and they're actually intentionally grown. So quite fun. So all I did was I printed out the pumpkin painting because mine's on a tilt. So actually the angle is slightly different than yours, but I think the way I paint won't be an issue for you to see what's going on. So the first thing I do is I look at where the lightest lights are in my painting. And this is what I teach. So if you look at the left side, you can see that it's a lot lighter. So to me, that means I'm going to hold the colors back. And then as we go towards the right, which this is the right on the screen, this is the left. So if we go towards this way with our eyes, you can see that it starts getting different and darker. And that's what shows the value scale. So we start with light and it keeps moving to get a little bit darker. So I can either paint it a really light value or I can save the whites of it. So I think for right now, making it a loose wet on wet type painting, I'm just gonna kind of paint around it and we'll see what happens. So you need to decide. I always teach from only a 6-tube palette. So I've talked about this in other videos. I have my 2 reds, my 2 yellows, and my 2 blues. And to begin painting, I activate the colors with some water. I'm looking like I may need some more yellows. We'll see how it goes. So you can see I start getting like a little puddle. And yes, there's 2 other colors on my palette. And the cool colors basically lean towards blue, and the warmer colors lean towards red. Without going into a lot of detail about that, I do teach classes on it, and there are some videos on it. So I have to decide, the orange. So I'm just going to mix up an orange, and I'm going to start with, I think my cool yellow. And make a puddle of that. And then add some cool red to it. And that's a pretty orange. Let's make some more. So that's nice if I want it a little bit lighter. That's a little too dark. Let's lighten it a little bit. And what I'm noticing is the light side of the yellow. So I can't really see it on my pumpkin, but on the painting I can't. So I'm going to start with wetting my paper where the pumpkin is with just some water. And I'm noticing I have some yellow still on my brush. So, good way to clean is to make sure before you add white, so it doesn't affect your color, is that you really clean it. And I have like a little rubber scrubber on the bottom, so it does help. But this yellow is not going to affect it because I'm actually using it. And I'm going to put a light glaze of yellow on here. be nice to kind of keep the yellow base because there is some yellow shining through in the bumps, and hopefully you can see the pumpkin a little bit. So that's going to be my lightest value. So we know that the local color is orange. I have a wire here, so I just want to move that wire out of the way a little bit. So I'm going to start with my orange, and it is wet on wet. And I'm going to just kind of drop that in. And notice that I drew what we call contour lines. I use the color erase pencil because it erases nicely and I can kind of see it. So what I do know is that the back of the pumpkin and the right side is obviously going to be a little deeper. So I have to kind of follow the curves a little bit, and there'll be some shadowing in there. Now, this is a good time that if I put the wrong color down, I can kind of soften. So there we go. It's going to need more layers, but just kind of keep some white bumps. So I'm just taking my finger and kind of lifting up the paint. You could do it with a brush too, but that just gives kind of a nice little texture. So I'm kind of looking at where I see the bumps, and while it can still lift, just kind of give me texture. And by the way, for those of you who paint with me, I'm using a rough textured paper today because it's so bumpy. But look at how cool that, hopefully you can see it just by doing that, the texture. And I'll probably have to play with that a little bit more. So I'm gonna mix up a little bit more. And I'm also gonna try mixing my warmer orange up as well. And seeing kind of the contrast there a little bit. Let's just drop that in a little bit. And we could do some negative painting around the bumps. What's nice when it's wet on wet is it kind of takes on its own little shape. So if anybody did the pond painted with the koi fish with me, when we made the rocks and stones, but you can see how I'm keeping kind of the light underneath that texture. There's more bumps in there. Lots of bumps over here. So I could even go to a smaller brush. Now what happens is the paper is going to be drying. It's giving me a nice indication of the bumps. And at this point, I'm not really looking at the image. I'm just going by what I see from the dabbings of the paper towel. So lot on the edge, but I don't want to go too much on the edge yet. This is kind of fun. So it's starting to dry. Take off some of that paint and keep that light. I'm gonna go to a little bit smaller brush. And so this, when we paint around, let's say these little bumps, that is what we call the pot space. And when I paint around it, that is called negative painting. Then, as I get into the painting, which I know I won't finish today, it's just to kind of help you get started. And I think I'm going to add a little warm yellow to some of these bumps. Yeah, there's a little bit more warm yellow in there. It'll kind of look like maybe the sun's hitting it a little bit more. Yeah, it's starting to get bumpy. I can see it a little bit now. So it's definitely darker underneath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with my warm mix again. And maybe slightly deepen it. So I know it's definitely darker towards the bottom. Maybe some bumps over here. And clean my brush a little bit, and I'm going to kind of wet this area a little bit and see if I can lift it up. So I take a clean paper towel and I can still lift it, because once it dries, I'm not going to be able to play with it too much. So let's see. Still kind of wet. I think I actually need to go a little bit deeper. So by adding more red or yellow, it's not getting kind of dull. So what I'm starting to see is maybe I need to put red violet in the mix. Let's see. So I still need to get, I think, a little bit darker with my orange. I like my approach to start out less is more and built that way. It's harder to lift than create. back to my first orange a little bit. Just mixing. So if I add some shadowing or a bit more, just trying to get a little bit deeper on the orange. Let's see. It's going too red, so it's not what I want. So I just mixed a cool yellow with my warm red. That's nice. It gives me. Well, the problem with what's happening is the paper starting to dry. So that's when you start getting what we call blooms. So one thing I'd suggest, especially if you're working with the 6 tubes, is make sure you have maybe some charts with your different oranges. But here you just saw me mix a bunch of different oranges. So that's kind of popping it a little bit more. And I like that tone. Keeping some of the lights in the painting that way. So let's just quickly talk about adding some shadow to it. And within here, you know, I'm seeing kind of the red violet. So what I need to do is, let's see, clean my palette a little bit, make some really big puddles. And make yourself some red violet. So if you look, here's kind of some red violet. So hopefully you can see that in the color. So let's see if drop that in. So it's still wet, so it's going to bleed. And I see the blue pencil, I'm kind of lifting up a little bit. Okay. And then later, when it dries, I can always detail more a little bit. There's some dark in here. And then just adding water to kind of soften it. Where is that shadow? And how does it keep moving? Like this side is much darker. I can always go back, which I'll probably do. Just kind of softening these edges too. Hopefully it's starting to look a little rounded. So have fun with your painting. There's lots of bumpy pumpkins out. Get yourself one. And every time I turn it, I get something different. One of the things I did with my nature journaling, and I think I might have showed a video, is that I just did a continuous line drawing with it, which was really quite fun. So You can find these videos for those not on Facebook. Send them to my YouTube channel, Elaine and Bergstrom. Please like and follow me and subscribe. Until next time, have a great weekend. Thank you.